Hi, it's Janet and welcome to my channel. This is where you can be inspired, learn new techniques, and pick up some new tips and tricks. Get started by subscribing and clicking on the bell. Hi everybody! Well, I'm here today to show you how to make this book, which I call the gift tag notebook. I made it from scratch and it's full of these lovely alpha stamps, collage images. And I've also aged it up with some vintage photo ink. Inside you'll find a notebook and a gusseted pocket for tags, and it's just a really nice and easy way to keep organized during the holiday season. Now before getting into making the book, let's talk tags for a second. I made these round scallop tags really quickly using the graphics that come on the various collage sheets from Alpha Stamps and some punches. I'm going to show you the steps really quick using this large Christmas tins graphic sheet here. This is a 2-inch graphic, and I'm going to pick this girl in her green and red umbrella and coat. She's really cute. And just punch that out. And there you go. You've got a nice circular tag piece to work with. She's so pretty. And then I'm going to use the scallop punch next. This is a 2 1/4 inch scallop punch in this case, and I'm going to take it out of some decorative cardstock here. Same concept, just using the punch to pick a piece out and punch it out. So simple, really quick. You can make a lot of these tags this way. I mean, and these graphics do all the hard work for you. That's the best part. So then the next step is going to be to ink the edges. I use some distressed ink in Vintage Photo, and I just edge it all the way around on both pieces as I started to do here. Then I'll glue the graphic onto the scallop using my art glitter glue. Okay, I've applied the glue and I'm going to put that on top of the scallop and just press that down and secure it. Then I'm going to take my punch out and I'm going to eyeball this and put in a punch at the area where I'd want it to hang from. Then I will take a piece of string or twine, whatever you have that you want to use. I think some gold thread would be pretty too. But in this case, I'm using red and white twine, and I'm going to thread that through the hole, pull it through, loop the 2 ends through the loop, and there you go. So the tag is all done. You just need to put to and from on the back using a pen or a stamp set, and you're good to go. Really quick and easy. So now let's talk about these rectangular tags and how I put these together. I cut these out using 2 dies this time, and I'll show them to you quickly. These 2 dies cut these 2 shapes. The first die, the background die, is a cut that looks like a tear, and then the middle one is the stitched die. Now these are Crafter's Companion dies. These are the nested sets here, and they fit really nicely within each other. And so just like the round ones, I'm going to use my ink and ink the edges all the way around, and just like the round tags, once they're inked, I will glue one on top of the other, and then it's time to pick out a graphic to use on it. This time I'm going to punch the graphic using a label punch. This one's from EK Success, and here's another Alpha Stamps collage sheet. This is a beautiful image right here of these whimsical cats dancing around at Christmas time. And so this is a nice shape to fit my label punch. I'm going to just push that over the top, kind of center the picture that I want, and then I can punch it. Now this collage sheet, if you're interested in it, is called Tiny Advent Calendar. So once again, I'm going to ink it all the way around, and then I'll glue it on top of the other 2 pieces, kind of centered like so. And after that, I can punch a hole in it and put in my thread. So here I've done all of that I just described, and I put in my twine here at the top, and now I can embellish it. Now I happen to have these border stickers in my stash, and I realized that if I cut one in the middle of its wave pattern here, that it kind of fits really nicely across the bottom and the top of my tags. So I think this was awesome because it gave some quick bling. It was really quick to do, and it looks very elegant and kind of matches the theme of these tags. So I put one at the bottom and then also one at the top. And then all that's left is to put to and from on the back, which you can write by hand, or you can use a stamp set. And there you go. The tags are done. Super quick and easy. All right, so I'm going to start making the book. And I'm going to begin by using a piece of this double-sided cardstock that is part of the November kit. It's from Authentique. It's called the Rejoice Collection. There are 3 sheets included in your kit. And so this piece I've cut down to 9 1/4 by 6 1/2. And on this side, we have this bright red and white plaid, and on this side we have the cookies and holly. And this is the side I want to be the outside of my box. So in order to do that, I'm going to flip it over and then begin working with the chipboard pieces. The the cover and the back cover is going to be made with 2 pieces of cardstock at 3 3/4 by 5 1/2 each. And then I have a spine cut at 1/2 by 5 1/2. Now this is just medium weight chipboard, and I've recycled it from some other packaging I received it in. And then what I do is I take double-sided tape. This is a very strong and sticky tape, and I'm going to apply strips of it on each side, both the front and the back. That will make sure that my cardstock and chipboard stick on both sides, both the cover and the liner that I'm going to put on afterwards. So I'm going to come back in a second and we'll have applied all that tape so I can start putting this together. And so here's the end result. I've covered both sides with double-sided tape. The wider strips are 1 inch. I don't think I mentioned that. And then the little bits that were left on the edges I covered with 1/4 inch double-sided tape. 1 strip of 1/2 inch tape would have worked best right here, but I happen to be out of it, so I just used 2 strips of 1/4 inch instead. And then this will be peeled back and placed onto the cardstock. So I've skipped ahead and removed the adhesive covering on one side here on the left piece. Just made sure that everything is going to be placed correctly. I really want to leave about a 1/2 inch of overlap around the entire 3 pieces here. So you can see that I've kind of laid that out. It just needs to be approximate. It doesn't need to be perfect. Once that first piece is in place, then it's time to do the spine. I will peel back that adhesive covering and place that about about 1/8 of an inch away from the front cover, or what will be probably the back cover. And then I'm going to take off the adhesive backing on the next piece, which is going to ultimately be the front of my book, and again put it about 1/8 of an inch away from the spine. And then I'm going to take my bone folder here and I'm just going to push the paper really hard into my adhesive, because I want to do everything I can to make sure that that adhesive and the paper and the cardstock stick together well. The next step is to begin folding the cardstock around the chipboard covers, sort of training that paper to fold neatly around those pieces so that it will be nice and tight and straight and all of that. And I'll do that to all sides. Once all the sides have been folded like that, you're going to get some fold lines where, you know, both sides and the bottom intersect. And I'm going to use that to kind of mark off where I'm going to trim the corners, just a little bit to the side of each of those fold lines. And then I'll take my scissor and kind of follow that as a guide to cut the corners almost at a curve. It's almost like a semicircle, but it's not quite that much, as you can see. And what this is doing is preparing the corners to be mitered with the paper, and it will then form a nice corner. So once again, you can see how I marked that, and then using those marks, used it to cut this arch shape. Now you want to stay just a hair, it's not even 1/8 of an inch ideally, but just a little bit less than that. It's maybe almost like 1/2 of an 1/8 inch away from the chipboard corner. If you get too close, you'll see the chipboard peeking out through the cardstock, and of course you don't want that. But if you get it too long, then you're going to get this weird kind of extended point. So you just want to get it close, but not right up to it. And I know that just sounded like it has to be super precise, but it really doesn't. It just, don't make it super long, don't get it right up to the point. Somewhere in between, that's all. And then this will need to be done on all 4 corners. Now's a good time too to train the spines. So as you can see, I just fold those over and start getting the spine used to bending there. And I'm then able to, at this point, pull away the adhesive covering on all the double-sided tape. So I'll come back when I've pulled all that away. Okay, I've removed all the adhesive backing now, and it looks a little strange because I have white on the left in the middle and chipboard color on the right, and it's just because I've used recycled chipboard here, and one side was finished white and one was left natural, and when I put them on I didn't pay attention to that, so no big deal, none of that shows. Just looks a little strange probably here in the tutorial. But now that the adhesive is removed, I can lay down all the edges of the cardstock and overlap them on the adhesive chipboard. And you can really see the shape of the book coming together now. The only thing about this is that the mitered corners, the very little bit right here where I'm lifting up, doesn't have any adhesive. So I do use my art glitter glue with this fine tip and shoot a little bit underneath each corner, wiping away the excess with my hands and or with a paper towel. After I used my fingers on the first one, I went, yeah, I don't want to really do that anymore. It doesn't feel very good. So I took out a piece of paper towel and I'm using that to pick up the excess glue that squeezes out. That's much better. So I'll do this with all four corners just to make sure they're all secure, and then we'll be ready to put in the liner. So the next step is going to be to place the liner of the book. And I chose to use just plain craft cardstock here, and I'm going to use the art glitter glue on the edges of this cardstock because that's the area that isn't covered with adhesive. It's just plain cardstock. The rest of this will be coated or stuck with the double-sided adhesive that we placed earlier. So you'll want to just place it so there's a fairly even border around the whole piece. And once that's in place, you can press it all down, and then you'll want to squeeze out any excess glue from the edges there. And that's again where your paper towel is going to come in handy to press that and wipe away excess glue. Then I'm going to take my bone folder and going to push that cardstock into the double-sided adhesive like I did with the cover, just to make sure that it's really well stuck to that chipboard and it doesn't come apart. The next thing to do is find where that spine is and start training it again to fold where the spine is located. So you can kind of feel it there, and if you push you can see the lines sort of developing. Just take the bone folder and follow the that space between the covers and the spine to create a score line that you can then use to actually crease it and fold it, and this is creating then your book shape. It's time now to make the closure for my book, and just arriving at my doorstep at the time I was making this were these mini knobs that connect with a screw, and that's how the whole thing stays in place, but it literally just arrived at my door. So I changed my plan. I was going to do a different closure, but decided to use my knobs. I was so excited about it. So what I want to do here is measure the center of my book cover where the knob is going to go. So I use my Tim Holtz ruler, which has a 0 marking, which allows you to center anything by measuring it out. I'll use a pencil just to mark where I'm going to put that hole for the placement of the knob. And then I'm going to use my small hole puncher and just go through all the layers to create a nice little hole here. And that is just perfect to fit my screw through. And then the knob will go on top of that, and it just screws on. And I got this on as well as I could with my fingers, and then later I went and got my little screwdriver set for glasses, and I was able to get that securely on. But that's essentially how it goes. It's just an easy screw-on type of application. Now to hold this shut, I'm going to use a gold elastic, which I'd gotten on a package or something. Again, I recycle a lot of things and use them in my projects as much as I can. And I've not really done a closure like this before, so I will tell you that I made a mistake here. First of all, in the ideal world, you'd want to do this before you place the liner. But as I mentioned, I was going to do a different closure. And then when my knobs arrived, I changed my plan. So I tried to adjust for that by putting the closure on the inside. Now, covering this was going to be a tablet, so I didn't think that would be too much of a loss and it would not show, and that's all true. But the second mistake I made was not cutting that elastic long enough. I really should have made it go all the way to close to where the spine would be so that there would be plenty of glue there. So what I did to cover this up is I took another piece of craft paper and cut a slice off of it and then placed it with double-sided adhesive. And you can see this worked out okay. It's just that I found that as I used this book, the gold elastic started to come out, and if I had made that longer and had it go all the way in, I don't think I would have had that problem. So two things, again, do it before you put the liner on and make that elastic a lot longer, and I think it will be perfectly fine. So now you can see how the closure is going to work, and it looks like I have a lot of excess elastic, but by the time I get it filled up, it's actually going to be quite stretched. So now I begin with the inside, and this is going to be the gusseted pocket. I've cut a piece of cardstock here, 3 1/4 inches by 8 1/4 inches, and then I'm going to score this at the 5-inch mark. Once scored, I will fold this over and burnish the score line well with my bone folder. It'll be time now to round the corners. And I'm going to use the Works board here from We Are Memory Keepers. It has an envelope maker built into it, and therefore there is a corner rounder. And I'm going to use it to round all 4 corners of this piece of cardstock. Now I've pulled out a 1 3/4 inch punch, and I'm going to punch it in the center of the pocket. This is where you're going to dig into the pocket with your fingers to pull out the tags. And this is what the pocket is going to look like. We just need to add the gusseted pieces to it now, 1 on each side. So the 2 gusset pieces are cut the same. They are 2 7/8 inches tall by 1 1/2 inches wide. And I'm just trimming those 2 pieces out here. Then I will go ahead and score them, and I'm going to score them in 3 places because we're going to fold them in an accordion style. So the score lines are going to be at 3/8 of an inch. The next one will be at 3/4 of an inch, which is right in the middle. And then last is 1 1/8 inch, and I'll do that to both pieces. So now to form the gusset, you'll fold it in the middle score line that you just made, and then you're going to form like this mountain fold, right? And then fold the bottom up into a valley fold, and the other side fold it up into a valley fold, so that you get basically a W fold when you're done. And so it's 2 valleys and a mountain, basically. And here's the other one. And now it's going to go inside of the pocket we formed here, right on the edges, 1 on each side. Now before it's glued in, we need to cut the corners out just a little bit so that it will not bulk up or get caught there in the corner. So I want it so that that mountain fold is facing into the pocket. And then I'll just make a diagonal cut there, and that will just make the corner work better inside of the pocket and not create a kind of a bulky corner there. So I'm going to cut the other one that way, diagonally again, and then it will go into the pocket like this. And I would recommend the outside of the gusset, as you see it here, matches the inside of the pocket. It will just be a more pleasing look from the side this way. Okay, I skipped ahead and I just put 2 pieces of 1/4 inch double-sided tape on each side of the gusset pieces we made here. And now we're ready to put this in the bigger piece that we made for our pocket. And of course, when we adhere the gussets in, it's going to make that gusseted pocket. Now I want to show you a little tip. Sometimes when you're working with double-sided tape, if you peel the backing off and then you try to place your piece. If you don't get it right, you don't get a second chance. So try this instead. Just peel part of the adhesive backing off, then place it on your project where you want the piece to be. And because you've removed some of that adhesive, the adhesive backing, you're going to be able to stick it on the one end a little bit, just to hold it kind of in place there. And then what you can do once that's there is just gently pull out the rest of the backing, and you'll find then that your piece is exactly where you intended it to be. It's not crooked unless you started to pull that backing off when it was crooked. It'll be exactly the way you want. It makes it so easy. So let's look at that again. I just peel it back a bit, fold over the backing so I can pull it out, then place it where I want it. I guess I changed my mind on the side. I was going to adhere here, but just fold it back and then place it where you want it to be. And I'll just point out here too, don't put your end too far. You don't want to cross the score line that we made for the bottom of the pocket. So be sure to test that out, otherwise it won't close right. But once you've got that in place, press down where the adhesive is exposed, and then again gently pull back the adhesive backing, and voila, your piece is perfectly placed. So super easy, right? It looks harder than it is, I think. Once that first piece is in the right place, you can peel the rest of the backing away on the other side, and it will close really super easily. You want to be somewhat careful, but it should be pretty easy to get straight and correct. And there you have it. You have a perfect gusseted pocket. Pretty easy, right? Now you'll want to use your bone folder again and press that adhesive into the paper. That's just going to again help it set and make sure that it's not going to come apart. But there you have it. Is it not the cutest thing? I think it looks great. All right. So this is now ready to place inside my book. And once again, I'm going to use that 1-inch double-sided adhesive on the back of this and make sure that it is not going to go anywhere, no matter how hard it's pulled and pushed when taking the tags in and out. Okay, so at this point I applied, I think, 3 strips of 1-inch double-sided tape, and now I've removed all the backing and I can put it in the book. I'm just being careful to get it as straight as I can. And once I feel it's where I want it to be, then I can push down on it. And then once again, use some pressure, get some pressure on there, either with your hands and or with your bone folder. Make sure that adhesive is really stuck against your cardstock. I really stress that this is a key to making everything stay together. Sorry if I sound like a broken record, but I just hate for anybody to go through this effort and then have it fall apart. So as you can see, we've got a nice gusseted pocket here. It's ready to be filled and decorated. So it's time now to put in the tablet. So here's the tablet I'm going to put in, and I wanted to show you the packaging so you can find this if you're looking for it. This came from the Dollar Tree. They're 3.5 by 5-inch size, and there's 5 of them in each pack. And I believe there's 50 pages per tablet, so you can get a lot out of it. And I like the fact that it's green. That might be offsetting to some people, but to me that said, hey, holidays and even Easter. It's a pretty soft green. So I'm going to make a covering for the top of this tablet, and as I mentioned, it's 3.5 inches wide, and I just decided to make it 2.5 inches high because that's big enough to fold around and give me a little bit of excess on the back side of it. So fold it with your fingers and kind of train it around the top of the tablet. So then apply some double-sided adhesive on the back side and then stick it to my tablet. I had done that with just 1 strip, and I decided I needed to take it off and put some more on there just to make it stick better. So that's why you saw a little bit of adhesive on the back of the tablet. But then go ahead and curve the top over again with your fingers and get it fairly tight, and then push the back onto the back of the tablet so that your adhesive is sticking to that covering. Now when you open it up, you can see that there is, the top of the tablet is exposed. And so I'm going to handle that by putting just some simple glue on the top of the binding here. And I just decided to use art glitter glue. I've done this a few times. It seems to hold just fine and works well, so this seems to be a good option. And then you can fold it back over and just press on the top of the spine so that you get the paper to stick to that spine. And of course, as you peel each page of paper away, the rest of the spine will stay in place on the top, or on your designer cardstock here. But once you have that done, again, fold things over, use your bone folder to crease it better. Press the top of that tablet down again, and you are good to go. So you can see this is a very simple way to dress up a plain tablet, but also make sure that you can peel each page of paper away and not cause harm to the binding. Now, of course, you want to adhere the tablet to the book. So again, highly recommend double-sided tape. In this case, I'm using my 1" again. And I'm going to use 3 strips, one at the top, one in the middle, and one at the bottom. Now this tablet is not going to be replaceable, so just keep that in mind. I did not make this book with the idea you would use it, several times after the first tablet was gone. That said, you could probably work with it and peel off another tablet and glue it to the cardboard base here of this first tablet once all the pages are gone. But it's not really meant to be refillable, just so you are aware of that. And you could adjust this to make it refillable if you wanted to. I'm just choosing not to do that. Alright, so now it's ready to be placed, and I'm just kind of eyeballing where I'm going to put it once I get the adhesive backing off. And I want to make sure, and you will too, that wherever you're going to place it, it's not going to bind against the spine of the book. So get a feel for that, get a feel for where it's going to go. Then peel off that adhesive and go ahead and place it inside of your book. Alright, I skipped ahead. I've got the last bit of adhesive covering removed, and I'm going to place it inside of my book now. Approximately where I had practiced placing it, and making sure again that there's no binding going on with the center of my book with that tablet. And then I can press down. And again, put some pressure, some good pressure on the back of this so that it adheres well and won't come loose later. And I just want to show you here now that it really doesn't matter that I put the cording in after I did the craft liner of the book, because it's covered up by the cardboard of the tablet. However, that said, the next time I make this book, I am going to put that cording underneath the the liner. And I'll also put the knob on before I put the liner on, just so that all that is covered up. This was the first time I made this book. It was my first design. It turned out really nice, but there are some little tiny changes I'd make just to make it even a little better. Well, I hope you enjoyed learning how to make this book. At this point, it's ready to decorate in any way that you see fit. Again, you can put anything in the pockets. You can use anything to decorate the inside and outside. If you would like to see some of the gorgeous vintage collage options, I would highly advise you to go check out Alpha Stamps and order some things there, or use some of your own stickers and papers and do whatever tickles your fancy for this book. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up and please subscribe. Keep the fun going. There are a few other videos that I've placed here that I hope you will take a moment to watch. Thanks again and have a great day. See you soon. Bye.